One, I am Dr. Sheela Barla from Department of Agronomy, Birsa Agricultural University. Today we will discuss about classification of weeds, which is under weed management course. So, first question arises is why classification? Then we know that to manage anything or to control anything, we must know its habit or its characteristics. So, in case of weed, we should know how it grows, how it propagates, when it occurs, or where it is found. So if we know all about weeds, then we can control it, or we can also identify weeds properly and control and manage weed properly. So here the knowledge of weed classification is important because it helps in understanding the prevalent spectra of weed species and their classes, which would provide clues for specific management methods that could be effective against those weeds. The first classification is based on ontogeny or based on lifespan. Here we know that weeds are of different lifespan. Some weeds grow annually, some weeds grow and completes its life cycle in 2 years or 2 seasons, and some weeds grow and completes its life cycle in more than 2 years. So according to their life cycle or according to their lifespan, weeds are classified in annual weeds, biennial weeds, or perennial weeds. Here under annual weeds we can see that some weeds grow or appears during summer season, some weeds appears during monsoon season, and some weeds appears during winter season, and these weeds are not found in other seasons. So according to their appearance or when they are found, they are again categorized as summer annuals. The example of summer annuals are Amaranthus retroflexus, Setaria viridis, and example of monsoon annual or kharif or rainy season annuals is Commelina bengalensis or Digitaria sanguinalis, Dactyloptenium sanguinensis, Digitaria. These are the monsoon season annuals, and in winter season annuals are examples are Chenopodium alba, Phalaris minor, Avena fatwa. These are the example of winter annuals. And another classification under annual weeds is ephemeral. That means weeds which are having very short lifespan. Example is Phyllanthus neruri. The life cycle of Phyllanthus neruri is within 60 days. These are the pictures of annual weeds. First one is Amaranthus retroflexus, Setaria viridis, Commelina bengalensis, and Chenopodium album, Millilotus indica, Vicia sativa. This is the picture of Phyllanthus neruri. Now biennial weeds. It completes its life cycle in 2 seasons or in 2 years. The first year they remain in vegetative growth, while flower and seeds set in the succeeding season, and they complete their life cycle. Then dies. So the example of biennial weeds are Alternanthera echinata, Daucus carota, and these are mainly found in non-cropped areas. These are the picture of biennial weeds, Alternanthera species and Daucus carota. Now perennial weeds. Perennial weeds that lives for more than 2 years, or weeds that continues to regrow over a few seasons to many seasons. Here again it is classified as shallow rooted perennials and deep rooted perennials. Shallow rooted perennials having shallow root system. Example Cynodon dactylon, Agropyron repens, Ambrosia species. And these are the picture of shallow rooted perennials. Now deep rooted perennials having deep root system. So example of deep rooted perennials are Cyperus rotundus, Sorghum helpans, Cirsium arvens, and Datura stramonium. And pictures of these weeds are in the lower side. Another classification is based on the nature of stem. uh, based on development of bark tissues on their stems and branches. Some weeds having woody nature, they are very hard, and some are semi-woody and some are herbaceous. So according to their nature of stem, weeds are classified. Example of woody weeds are Lantana camara and Prosopis juliflora. This is the Lantana camara and this is Prosopis. And shrubs and under shrubs are comes under woody stem weeds. And example of semi-woody weeds are Abutilon indicum, Croton sparsiflorus. Whereas example of herbaceous weeds are Amaranthus viridis, Celosia argentea and Parthenium hysterophorus. Herbaceous weeds having green and succulent stem and they are mostly found in crop area. Another classification is based on ecological affinity. Some weeds are found in dryland areas and some found in areas where there is lot of moisture. So according to their affinity, they are classified. Dryland weeds are those type of weeds whose root system is deep and having drought endurance mechanism. The example is Tribulus terrestris, Argemone mexicana, Leucas aspera, Digera arvensis, Borea hispida, Digitaria sanguinalis. So, and these are the pictures of weeds. Next is the wetland weeds. Those weeds which are grow in wet condition. They are tender annuals with semi-aquatic habit, can thrive well under waterlogged and in partially dry conditions. The example of wetland weeds are Echinochloa colona, Amania basifera, Eclipta alba, Ludwigia parviflora, Panicum repens and Paspalum mysticum. These are another picture of wetland weeds, that is Cyperaceria, Cyperus deformis, Fimbristilis miliaceae, Monocoria vaginalis. Another type of weeds are garden land weeds, which are mostly found in garden areas occurring under irrigated conditions. Example of these type of weeds are Trianthema portulacastrum, Portulaca oleracea, Amaranthus viridis, and these weeds are also used as leafy vegetable. Again, another example is Digitaria sanguinalis, Dactyloctanium egyptium, Eragrostis repens. Another classification is based on place of occurrence. Weeds occurring under cropped area, pasture or grazing lands, wasteland, uncropped lands, roadsides, plantation crop and turf or landscape garden. Those weeds which are found in cropped area are also called as obligate weeds. These are occurring under disturbed soil or cultivated fields in cropped situation and causing hindrance to crop growth and yield. Example, Phalaris minor in wheat, Echinochloa species in rice and Ipomia triloba in sugarcane. These are the pictures of cropland weeds and uncropped wheat. Phalaris minor, Echinochloa colona, Ipomia triloba, Hyptis suavolens, and this is Parthenium hysterophorus. Weeds of grazing land or pasture lands, which is commonly found in these type of lands. So example is Indigofera lineri, Sida acuta, Pennisetum species, Panicum dicotylemiflorum, Asphodelus tenuifolius, Leum viscosa. Weeds of wasteland or uncropped lands. This is also known as facultative weeds. Example is Lantana camara, Parthenium hysterophorus, Calotropis gigantea, Abutilon indicum, Alternanthera pungens, Datura stramonium, Hyptis suavolens, Tridex procumbens and Tribulus terrestris. And weeds of plantation crop, those weeds which are commonly found in plantation area. Example is Chromolina odorata, Micania micarantha, Dendrophyta species, Lantana camara, etc. And weeds of nectar for landscape garden. The example is Digitaria species, Stellaria media, Taraxacum officinale, or which is also called as dandelion, Agropyron repens, and Euphorbia hitta. These are the pictures of those weeds. Antropy, Calotropis, Datura, Digitaria, Icania macrantha, Stellaria media, Taraxacum officinale. Another classification is based on origin of weeds. Those weeds which are from native origin are known as native weeds or indigenous weeds. Example is Cyanotis cuculata, Abutilon indica, Celosia argentea, Digera arvensis, Euphorbia hitta, Phyllanthus nerori, and Echinochloa colona or cruscale. Similarly, alien weeds are those weeds which introduced from other countries. Weeds introduced to new areas other than native range. Example is Parthenium sterophorus, Phalaris minor, and here we are classified according to this. Weeds which are from different countries are given here, that like Phalaris. Phalaris minor, it comes from country Europe or North America. Parthenium hysterophorus comes from USA. Conija comes from North America. Echinochloa crassipus from South America. Xanthium stomarium from North America, and Lantana camara from tropical America. Similarly, these are also name of weeds and from which country they are native of which country, here it is shown. Classification is based on cotyledon number. Monocotyledons and dicotyledons. Monocotyledons weeds with embryo having single cotyledon and leaves with parallel veins. Roots are adventitious and floral parts in multiple of 3. An example of monocotyledons are Echinochloa colona or Echinochloa cruscale, Cynodon dactylon, Sorghum helpens, Setaria species, Commelina bengalensis, Cyanotis axillaris, Phalaris minor, Poa annua, Monocoria vaginalis. Next, dicotyledons. Dicotyledons weeds are with having embryo having 2 cotyledons and leaves with major veins reticulated, roots developed from radicals, and floral parts in multiple of 4 and 5. Example is Parthenium sterophorus, Lantana camara, Chromolina odorata, Chenopodium album, Datura stramonium, Leucus aspera, and Acanthospermum hispidum. Other classification is based on morphology. Weeds are categorized as grasses, sedges, and broadleaf weeds. Grasses means having narrow leaves. As herbaceous plants with joint stem or rounded or flattened stem, narrow leaves arranged in sets of 2, spikes of small winds, spikes of having small wind pollinated flowers. Those weeds belong to family Poaceae. These weeds are belong to Poaceae. Example Echinochloa colona, Avena fatua, Digitaria sanguinalis, Dactyloctenium egyptium, and Eragrostis pilosages weeds. Leaves are narrow, arranged in sets of 3. Stem are triangular in cross section. Example is Cyperus rotundus, Cyperus eria, Cyperus deformis, and Cirpus species, Kilinga monocephala, Fimbristilis miliaceae. Broad-leaved weeds. Leaves are wide, flat veins, branch out in different directions, and mostly are dicotyledons. These forms major group of weeds in agriculture. Example Parthenium sterophorus, Amaranthus viridis, Chenopodium album, Micania micrantha, Argemone mexicana, Acanthospermum hispidum. Here monocote weeds like Commelina bengalensis and Cyanotis axillaris are included in this category in view of their similar behavior to dicot. Other classification is based on soil type. This is also called edaphic. Weeds are found in different type of soils. Weeds of black cotton soil. These weeds are found in black cotton soil. Example is Digera arvensis, Amaranthus viridis, Abutilon indicum, Cyanotis axillaris, Celosia argentea, Corcorus species, Drinebra retroflexa, Cynodon dactylon, etc. And weeds which are found in red soil or red light soils are categorized in this class. And the example is Commelina bengalensis, Cyperus rotundus, Digitaria sanguinalis, Dactyloctenium egyptium, Xanthium strumanium, Cencrus species, Leucus aspera, Tribulus terrestris and Euphorbia hirta. Similarly, weeds which are found in or common in laterite soils are Cromolina odorata, Lantana camara, Hyptis valens. Second on the basis of based on soil reaction. Here three type of weeds like acidophilic weeds which are common in acid soils. Weeds thrive in acid soils. Example Romex acetosella, Aspergilla arvensis and Taraxacum officinale. And next basophilic weeds which are mostly found in alkaline or saline soil. Example Daucus carota, Chenopodium species, Anagalis arvensis, Brassica hirta, etc. Another is neutrophilic, means which is found in neutral soils. Weeds thrive on neutral soils. Example Acalypha indica, Chenopodium album, Cichorium intybus, Amaranthus species, Portulaca oleracea, etc. Soil fertility. Certain weeds have preference in growing on soil fertility status. Some weeds grow well in poor soils, and while some grow in only fertile soil, and some are also as indicator of the particular nutrient status. So accordingly they are classified. Poor soil, example is Anthropogon species, Raphanus species, Rumex species and Artemisia species. These are grown mostly in poor soils, while in fertile soils, example is Abutilon species, Stellaria media, Cichorium intybus, Taraxacum officinale. These are Chenopodium album, these Portulaca oleracea, these are found mostly in the fertile soil. Next is a special indicator of nutrients. They are only found in where there is that nutrient is low or high, and so these are also called as a special indicator of nutrients. So the example of these weeds are here I am reading. Dalis grass, that is Paspalum dilatatum, indicates low calcium, very high magnesium and high potassium level. Hope clover or Trifolium argarium and Oxalis corniculata indicates very low levels of calcium and high level of magnesium. Taraxacum species, that dandelion, indicates very low levels of calcium and very high level of chlorine and potassium. Prostrate spurge, that is Euphorbia species, indicates low calcium levels and very high levels of chlorine, magnesium, potassium and sodium. Portulaca oleracea and mustard indicates an abundance of phosphorus, whereas red clover, Trifolium protens, indicates an excess of potassium. Red root pigweed, Amaranthus retroflexus, indicates abundance of nitrogen. White clover, that is Trifolium repens, indicates very high level of chlorine, magnesium and sodium. Wild garlic, Allium arsinum, indicates very low calcium and bacterial count and very high levels of chlorine, magnesium, potassium and sodium. Yarrow indicates low level of potassium. So I request Dr. R.R. Upasani to complete rest part of the classification. Thank you.
Birsa Agricultural University. So I will take up some of the remaining parts of classification. So to start with, another classification is based on response of day length. As we know that seasonal variation is dependent upon the day length. What happens in summer season, days are longer, nights are shorter, whereas in case of winter season, days are shorter and nights are longer. So this also affects the emergence or the appearance of the weeds. So to take first one, when the short day means winter season, and in that case the nights are longer. So weeds like Chenopodium album and Avena fetua, Phalaris minor germinate and attain flower during winter conditions. So this is the significance of winter season weed. So this is the example of Chenopodium album, Avena fetua, Phalaris minor, Millilotus indica and Vicia sativa, Spergula arvensis. Another long day. Long day means summer season weed. So in summer season the days are longer and nights are shorter. So the examples are all Kharif season, rainy season weeds, whether it is Digitaria, whether it is Dactyloctanium, whether it is Agitatum. So all these are the weeds of the rainy season weeds, and they just reflect the longer day weeds. So day neutral. It is not necessarily for all weeds to appear in the different seasons. For example, Parthenium hysterophorus. Parthenium hysterophorus starts emerging right from the February month and it continues to appear till the summer season, even up to the winter season also. So it has a wider adaptability and it is rarely affected by the day period. So for example, Parthenium hysterophorus, Solanum nigrum, Dimeria, Cordata, Cyprus rotundus, Cynodon dactylon, and most of the perennial flower continuously. Now based on photosynthetic, as I said that there are groups of plants, group of weeds which have different type of photosynthetic efficiency. For example, in C3 type of weeds are very poor or very inefficient in synthesizing photosynthesis. So whereas C4 type of weeds are very stronger and they utilize solar rays more efficiently as compared to C3. So C3 weeds are Chenopodium album, Convolvulus arvensis, Tridus procumbens, Biden pilosa, Rumex denticulitensis, Ageratum conzoides, Icornia crucipes, Phalaris minor, Avena fetua, Chromelena odorata, Cyprus deformis, and Parthenium hysterophorus, Xanthium strumarium, Euphorbia denticulata, Commelina bengalensis, and Phyllanthus neruri. So these are the C3 weeds. C3 weeds, again I will tell that they are photosynthetically inefficient as compared to C4. So these are certain photographs of the C3 weed as I discussed earlier. Biden pilosa, Convolvulus arvensis, Rumex acetosella, Xanthium strumarium. Now what are the C4? As I said, the C4 are more efficient in utilizing the solar energy, and the examples are Cyprus rotundus. They are more sound and they increase in their dry weight in a very short time. Similarly, Cyprus esculentus, Cyprus syria, Fimbrislis miliaceae. So these are all mainly found in aquatic system of rice field. Similarly, Eichhornia colonum, Uleusin indica, Sorghum helipens. Sorghum helipens is a very strong and has very good reserve of food in the tuber or rhizome, and this flourishes like anything and grows very tall. Similarly, Portulaca oleracea, Digitaria sanguinalis, Amaranthus viridis. Amaranthus viridis is also a weed which is mainly also used as a leafy vegetable. Borrevia diffusa, Imperita cylindrica, Trianthemum portulacastrum and Euphorbia hirta. These are all C4 type of weeds, means where they accumulate dry matter in a very short time. Similarly, cam plants are Parthenium histrophoros, Ageratum considis, Biden pilosa, Pterixicum officinale, and Coniza Bonaravia, and Colocasia species, Sericium armensis. So these are certain cam type of weed. So these are certain examples by the photograph Borevia diffusa. You all see such type of weeds in your locality, in your region, but we rarely recognize them. But by seeing these photographs, you can easily recognize them in your neighbor or in your field by close monitoring it. Imperata cylindrica. This is also visible when you go along the roadside. You will find in ditches such type of weeds are very common. Colocasia species. This is a very well common type of weed. Again, Ageratum considis, usually found in this rainy season or summer season, and a lot of maize field is infested by the Ageratum considis. Again, based on spatial consideration, is very important. All time we discuss about the weeds which is present in the cropland, but we rarely consider the weeds present in the aquatic system. So there are a lot of problems of aquatic weeds in the aquatic system, because when you find that in monsoon season, what happens, lot of rivers and ponds are filled with the a particular type of weeds that is known as Eichhornia crassipes. So this covers the whole water surface, and this restrict the penetration of oxygen under the water surface. This way the living being present in the water are badly affected. So you have to manage those weeds, to remove those weeds. So first of all, we will like to recognize those weeds. What are the there are different types of floating weed, this aquatic weed: floating weed, emerged weed, submerged weed, and terrestrial weed. The floating weeds, which floats on the water surface, they have just floating roots also, but they are not anchored to the soil under the water. So floating weeds are, the leaves float freely on the surface of water, while roots are under water bodies, canal, rivers, large ponds, tanks, etc. For example, Eichhornia crassipes, Salvinia molesta, Pistia lanceolata, Lemna minor, Azolla pinnata. So these are the weeds. Polygonum. So these are the weeds which are floating type of weed. I will show the pictures of these. You see the Eichhornia. Now you can recognize how this is very common type of weed which is found in aquatic system. This floats on the water surface. Salvinia molesta, you might have seen it, but now you can recognize it by seeing this picture. Again, Pistia lanceolata. You just see the difference of morphology. Lemna minor. Similarly, Azolla pinnata and Polygonum amphibium. So these are the aquatic system weeds which are found as a floating weeds. Now, rooted floating weed. Of course, there are certain weeds which floats. For example, Sagittaria, Ipomia, and Nulumbo. So Nymphia. So these have roots which floats in the water too. Now, submerged weed. I just told about the weeds which floats on the water surface. You can see it on the water surface, but there are certain weeds which remain submerged in the water. You cannot see from the outside of the water system. Just when you go into the water, you will find such type of weeds. So weed species belonging to this group germinate, sprout, grow and reproduce beneath the water surface. Their roots and reproductive organs remain in the soil at the bottom of the water body. So you just see the difference. Submerged have not roots anchored to the soil, but here they remain anchored in the soil, submerged. So for example, there are two types: shallow water body, Anabina, blue-green algae, as well as Cara, Gilinica. So these are the weeds which are found as a shallow water body weeds, and again deep water body, Hydrilla verticillata. So these are the examples, just to see the blue-green algae. This is again submerged type of weed, Spirogyra, Cara. This is very dangerous type of weeds which is found mainly in paddy field. what happens, farmers are very much perturbed about this type of weed, and they often complain about removal of such type of weed. So we just advise them how to control it. Again, Najas minor, Vallisneria, Potamogitone. So these are the certain weeds which are found under the aquatic weed as a submerged weed. Now emerged weed. There is difference between submerged and emerged. Emerged weeds just have their anchored roots in the soil, and the above water part remain on the water, above the water. But as soon as the water starts receding, but the above water part doesn't go down, that remains up. Whereas in submerged type of weed, as soon as the water starts receding, then the water, this floating and type of weeds, they also goes down. Here these weeds grow in shallow water near the water bodies, where water recedes and rises with the season. The weeds' roots remain anchored in the soil and do not fall or move up as per water level. These weeds may be called semi-aquatic, but more appropriately referred to as emerged weed. Now emerged weed example, Typha. This is also one of the weed, very common, but you will now realize or recognize it when you move on the roadside. You will find in both sides of the ditches where the water starts accumulating during rainy season, this type of Typha is very much appear, and this is utilized by the villagers as a thatch to cover their houses. Phragmatis curca and Hypomia potandria, Hypomia aquatica. So these are certain weeds which are known as emerged weed. So these are the examples, as I said, that Typha linguistifolia, Phragmatis curca. So these are the weeds which are very common. Now by seeing these photographs, you can recognize in your region or area. Now parasitic weed. Of course, we have been studying about the weeds which are found in cropland. We have studied about the aquatic weeds, but there are certain weeds which are parasitic in nature. That is, they utilize their nutrient moisture from the host plant. They extract nutrient from the host plant, and they can be controlled differently, unlike other common weeds of cropland. So we have to understand what is the biology of the parasitic weeds. Weeds are those plants which require growth stimulants for germination or host plant to support growth and development for completion of their life cycle. The parasites depend on host plant for physical support, photosynthesis, nutrient, water and minerals for survival. These weeds can be divided into two categories: stem parasite and root parasite. Stem parasite. There are two types of stem parasite: total stem parasite and partial stem parasite. In total the stem parasite, they extract whole nutrient from the host plant. For example, they do not have green leaf for photosynthesis and have depend entirely on host plant. For example, cuscuitis is very common. Now you can recognize from your area that certain viney type of climber is attached to the host plant and they extract nutrient from the host plant. Cuscuta campestris on onion, carrot, chickpea, pigeon pea, black gram and groundnut. Once they are infested, they start infesting the crop plant. It is very difficult to control unless some especially partial stem parasite. Of course, they don't totally depend upon the host plant. To some extent, they also photosynthesize and for their survival. So Dendrocto falcata and have green leaves. You see here there are certain green part also that synthesize photosynthesis and depend on host plant for water, nutrient, mineral. This parasitizes fruit plants. This is mainly found on fruit plant or tree plant or forest tree plant. Parasite after germination, these parasites attach to the root of the host plant. So they are also of two types. total root parasite and partial root parasite. So total root parasite, you might have seen certain tomato plant that some otherwise plant comes out from attached to the tomato plant. That is the parasite plant. That is a total root parasite plant, and that is known as orobanche. It is very common in many tomato growing area, or some sort of solanaceous type of crop is grown. There, this orobanche is very common. Partial root parasite, this is very common in maize crop or sugarcane crop or any other millet crop. What happens? This also dependent upon the host plant partially, and it is because it being greener, this also photosynthesize, and the very common example is the striker. Objectionable weed. Objectionable weeds are the weeds which are found get mixed with the crop seed, and they are very difficult to separate. And seed certification inspector will find that certain weed seeds are mixed with the crop seed. It means that is objectionable. So they will not certify the crop seed. So weeds which produce seeds that are difficult to separate once mixed with the crop seed. For example, Argemone mexicana in mustard, Avena fecua in oat, wild oat, onion in onion, Brassica species seeds of basil and clover, Cichorium intybus in seeds of barsim, Cleome viscosa in seeds of mustard and rape, so Cuscuta seeds in lucerne seeds, Solanum nigrum in peas or bean. So these are the objectionable weeds, seeds which get mixed with the crop species. Poisonous weed. So poisonous weeds are those weeds which contain poisonous substances, poisonous to the animal. Most of the time, sometimes what happens, some animals graze certain weed, and they get, after feeding, they get some sort of mortality happens. So because some alkaloid is present in such weeds, for example, this sorghum helipens, if it is fed by the animal, a lot of hydrocyanide is accumulated in that sorghum helipens, and that interact with the digestive system of the cattle, and they get fatal. So similarly, for example, Amaranthus retroflexa, Sonker, Sericium arvens, Euphorbia allium vinale. So these are certain weeds which affect the cattle by accidentally if they graze it. Environmental weeds. Of course, we are now talking much about the environment, and we want a very healthy environment, but some attention has to be paid for the weeds which are harming the environment. For example, the burning example of this is the Parthenium hysterophorus. So Parthenium hysterophorus is very dangerous type of weed, and it causes many type of diseases in human being as well as in cattle or animals. Similarly, there are a number of weeds which are considered to be the environmental health problem, and such weeds should be also controlled. Noxious weeds. Noxious weeds are the weeds upon introduction to new areas become invasive, and after establishment due to lack of natural enemies. So certain weeds have no natural enemy, so they continue to grow and without damage, and they have higher multiplications. For example, this Parthenium has no enemies in India, so they have spread in all over India to various places, to as low as at sea level, to as high at Himalayan region, and as wet to the region of the Bengal, and as dry as Rajasthan. So it is widely adopted because it has no natural enemies to control it. Similarly, Mecania micrantha, lantana, all these weeds are very noxious, and they have been come to the India incidentally or accidentally in region, and they are creating problem. The weeds of leafy veg, very very good sign, very good things about the weeds, that they are also useful for the human being, and number of weeds are popular among the villagers to use them as a leafy vegetable. For example are Portulaca oleracea. This is high in beta carotene. They are very nutritious, and omega-3 fatty acids. Similarly, Celosia argentea, this is high in calcium, magnesium, iron. Chenopodium album, this is rich in vitamin A and calcium. Amaranthus, so all Centella asiatica. Centella asiatica is very good, not only as a leafy vegetable, but it is also very good for jaundice. So these are certain examples of wheats which are used as a leafy vegetable. So these are the figures. Wheats having fodder value. Of course, fodder is very important for cattle for getting a good quantity of milk. But many times farmers are not able to grow fodder exclusively, so they take weeds as a fodder purpose for their fodder purpose. And for example are Cynodon, Dactylon, Chloris barbata, Digitaria similis. So many weeds coming in Kharif season or rainy season are utilized as a fodder by the grass cutter for their cattle purpose. So weeds of bioremediation. This is very important, that many industries are synthesizing various products, and lot of heavy metals are coming as a byproduct from their factory, and they are affecting the neighboring field by deposition of heavy metal. So some remedy should be there to take out or absorb those heavy metals from this drain water. So for that certain plants are useful. And what are those there? Chromulena odorata. This absorb cadmium and lead. Similarly, Iconia crecipis and Hydrilla verticillata, this also absorb lead, cadmium, mercury. Salvinia molesta, this absorb lead, chromium, nickel. Bacopa, this also absorb cadmium. So they are planted around the drained water so that these heavy metals are absorbed by the these plants, weeds. With these words, I thank you very much for kind attention and hearing me patiently. Thank you very much.